I was staring at my wife's laptop screen, my coffee mug frozen halfway to my lips, when I realized my entire life had been a lie. The notification had popped up on her computer while I was checking our joint email for the contractor's estimate. Jessica had left her laptop open on the kitchen counter before rushing out to her yoga class. The same Tuesday morning yoga class she'd been attending religiously for the past 8 months. Tyler, can't wait to see you tonight. Wear that thing I bought you. The message preview sat there, innocent yet devastating, in the corner of her screen. My hand trembled as I set down the mug. Tyler. I knew that name. Tyler Brennan, the new marketing director at her firm. The guy she'd mentioned casually over dinner 3 months ago. Just some hot shot they brought in from Boston, she'd said with a dismissive wave. I shouldn't have clicked. I knew I shouldn't have. But my fingers moved on their own, opening her messages app. What I found made my stomach drop through the floor. Months of messages. Hundreds of them. Photos I couldn't unsee. Jessica in lingerie I'd never seen her wear for me. Messages detailing encounters in hotel rooms, in his car, even in our home while I'd been away on business trips. The couch where I watched football on Sundays. Our bed. Our goddamn bed. My vision blurred. 14 years of marriage. 2 kids, Emma, 12, and Jake, 9. A mortgage we'd just refinanced. The vacation to Hawaii we'd booked for next summer. All of it built on sand that was now washing away beneath my feet. I grabbed my phone and started taking pictures. Screenshot after screenshot. My hands were steadier than I expected. Maybe I was in shock. The messages went back 8 months, right around the time she'd started that yoga class. There was no yoga class. There had never been a yoga class. Jessica. He fell asleep early again. God, I can't remember the last time we actually talked about anything real. Tyler. Leave him. You know you want to. Jessica. It's complicated. The kids. The house. His parents would destroy me in this town. Tyler. So we keep having fun until you're ready. I'm not going anywhere. I photographed everything. The explicit messages, the photos, the detailed plans of their encounters. There was one from just last week, Thursday night, when she'd told me she was going to her book club. I'd stayed home with the kids, helped Emma with her science project, read Jake his bedtime story. While I was being Dad of the Year, my wife was in room 237 at the Riverside Inn, doing things with Tyler that we hadn't done in years. The front door opened. I had maybe 30 seconds. I closed the laptop, grabbed my coffee, and walked to the living room, my heart hammering so hard I thought it might explode. Jessica breezed in, yoga mat under her arm, skin glowing with what I now knew wasn't post-workout endorphins. Hey, babe, she said, kissing my cheek. I could smell cologne on her, not hers. His. Good workout? Amazing, she said, heading toward the kitchen. I'm starving. Want me to make breakfast? I watched her move through our home. This woman I'd loved since college, the mother of my children, and felt nothing but cold calculation settling into my chest where my heart used to be. Sure, I said. That sounds great. She didn't notice anything wrong. Why would she? I was dependable, predictable David Walsh, the software engineer who worked long hours to provide for his family, who never questioned when she needed me time or girls' night out. The husband who trusted his wife completely. Trusted. Past tense. While she hummed in the kitchen, cracking eggs into a pan, I sat on the couch and methodically went through my phone, backing up every screenshot to 3 different cloud services. Then I texted my brother, Ryan. Need to talk. Urgent. Can you meet for lunch? His reply came within seconds. What's wrong? Not over text. Noon at Murphy's? I'll be there. Ryan was a corporate attorney, sharp as a razor and twice as cutting when he needed to be. He'd know what to do. More importantly, he'd know who I needed to call. "Breakfast is ready," Jessica called out. I joined her at the kitchen table, where she'd set out scrambled eggs, toast, and fresh fruit. The picture of domestic bliss. She smiled at me across the table, the same smile that had made me fall in love with her sophomore year at State. "I was thinking," she said, "maybe we could get away this weekend. Just the two of us. Your mom could watch the kids." The audacity nearly made me laugh. "What brought this on?" She shrugged, reaching across to squeeze my hand. "I just feel like we've been disconnected lately. I want to work on us." Guilt, I realized. She was feeling guilty. Maybe Tyler had pressured her again about leaving. Maybe she'd had a scare, thought I was getting suspicious. Or maybe she just wanted to ease her conscience while continuing to destroy our family. "That sounds nice," I said, squeezing back. "Let me check my schedule." Her shoulders relaxed. Crisis averted, she probably thought. Husband successfully managed. I ate my eggs and made small talk about Emma's upcoming soccer game and Jake's birthday party next month. I kissed her goodbye when she left for work, watched her drive away in the SUV I'd bought her last Christmas. Then I went upstairs to our bedroom and started looking. Really looking. The lingerie from the photos wasn't in her drawer. She was probably keeping it at the office or in her car. But I found receipts, dinners at expensive restaurants on nights she'd claimed to be working late. A hotel keycard tucked into her winter coat pocket from February. A burner phone hidden in a shoebox in the back of her closet. Its message history wiped clean, but its existence damning enough. I photographed it all. By the time I left to meet Ryan, I had enough evidence to bury her. The tax documents sat on my kitchen table like a hand grenade with the pin pulled. I'd been expecting my own 1099s from the freelance consulting work I'd done last year. Instead, the envelope from Whitman and Associates Accounting had Jessica's name on it, addressed to our home. A clerical error. Someone in their office had mixed up the mailing lists for their separately filing clients. I should have just set it aside for her. I didn't. The Schedule E form showed rental income from a property on 2847 Maple Grove Avenue. 12 months of payments, each one deposited like clockwork into an account I'd never heard of. The apartment had been registered in her maiden name, Jessica Catherine Porter, before we'd gotten married. She'd never mentioned it, not once in 14 years. $18,000 in annual rental income. After expenses, she'd cleared about $13,000. Money I'd never seen. Money that had never touched our joint accounts. Never paid for Emma's braces or Jake's soccer league fees, or the new roof we'd needed 3 years ago when I'd pulled from my retirement fund to cover it. I sat there with the documents spread in front of me, my coffee going cold, trying to construct an innocent explanation. Maybe she'd forgotten about it. Maybe it was a family property she'd inherited, and the management company handled everything and it had just slipped her mind and, no, you don't forget about $13,000 a year. You don't accidentally fail to mention an entire apartment you own. You don't let your husband drain his retirement account when you've got rental income sitting in a secret bank account. My phone buzzed. Jessica's name lit up the screen. "Running late tonight. Client dinner. Don't wait up. Love you." Client dinner. I stared at those words, remembering 8 months of yoga classes that weren't yoga classes. Remembering Tyler Brennan's messages about how good she tasted, about what they'd done on our couch, remembering the hotel keycard I'd found hidden in her dresser. How many client dinners had actually been client dinners? I pulled up our banking app and went through 6 months of statements. There, a pattern I'd never noticed before. Once a month, sometimes twice, she'd withdraw $300 cash from our joint account. Household expenses, she'd told me once when I'd asked. I'd believed her because why wouldn't I? We were married. We were partners. We trusted each other. Trusted. Past tense. I did the math. $300 a month for how long? I scrolled back further. 2 years. Maybe more. That was $7,000 minimum, just in cash withdrawals I could easily track. Money that had vanished into whatever separate life she'd been living. The apartment, the secret account, the cash withdrawals, the affair. I pulled up the property records on my laptop. 2847 Maple Grove Avenue was a two-bedroom apartment in the Riverside district, about 20 minutes from our house. The same district where the Riverside Inn was located. Room 237, where she'd met Tyler at least a dozen times according to the messages I'd found. My hands weren't shaking anymore. That cold calculation that had settled into my chest after I discovered the affair. It was expanding now, filling every space where shock and hurt had been. This wasn't just infidelity. This was financial deception on a scale that spoke to something deeper, something more fundamental than sex in a hotel room. This was a woman who'd been living a completely separate life. I photographed every page of the tax documents, uploaded them to the same cloud services where I'd stored the screenshots of her messages with Tyler. Then I opened my email and sent everything to Ryan with a subject line that read, "Found something else." His response came within 5 minutes. "Jesus Christ, don't touch anything else. I'm calling someone." I sat back in my chair and looked around our kitchen, the refrigerator covered in Emma's artwork and Jake's soccer schedule. The coffee maker I'd bought Jessica for her birthday 3 years ago. The table where we ate dinner as a family every night, where she'd smile at me and ask about my day and never once mention the apartment she owned, or the $13,000 she was hiding, or the man she was sleeping with when she was supposed to be at yoga. How much of our marriage had been real? My phone rang. Ryan's name flashed on the screen. "Tell me you didn't confront her," he said without preamble. "I haven't." "Good. Keep it that way. I've got someone I need you to meet. Patricia Brennan. No relation to that piece of work your wife's been seeing. She's a forensic accountant, works with my firm on complex divorce cases. If Jessica's been hiding rental income, there's probably more." "More," I repeated. The word felt hollow in my mouth. "David, listen to me. People who hide one thing hide other things. The apartment, the secret account, the cash withdrawals. This is a pattern. Patricia can trace it all, but we need to move carefully. No confrontation, no tipping our hand. Can you get me copies of all your joint tax returns for the last 7 years? We filed separately." Silence on the other end. Then, "She insisted on that?" I thought back to our first year of marriage. Jessica had said it would be simpler, cleaner, since she had some investment income from before we'd met. I'd agreed because it hadn't mattered to me. We were married. We were a team. What difference did it make how we filed our taxes? "Yeah," I said. "She insisted. Son of a bitch." Ryan's voice had gone hard. "She's been planning this. The separate filing, the hidden property, the secret account. This isn't opportunistic, David. This is systematic." I watched through the kitchen window as Mrs. Patterson walked her dog past our house. She waved. I waved back, the gesture automatic, meaningless. Everything was meaningless now. "What am I looking at here?" I asked. "Worst case? She's been siphoning money for years, building a nest egg you don't know about. The affair might not be about Tyler Brennan at all. He might just be the exit strategy. The emotional justification she needs to walk away with everything she's hidden. She can't do that. We live in an equitable distribution state. Equitable doesn't mean equal, and it only applies to assets the court knows about. If she's got money hidden in accounts under her maiden name, properties you've never heard of, cash stashed somewhere, that's why we need Patricia. She finds things people don't want found." I heard typing on his end. "I'm sending you her number. Call her today. This afternoon if possible. And David, don't touch those tax documents. Don't let Jessica know you've seen them. If she asks, tell her nothing came in the mail. She won't ask. She doesn't know her accountant screwed up. Even better. We've got time to work with then. Use it." After we hung up, I sat there looking at the tax documents. Schedule E, line 3, rents received. $18,000. Such a simple number to dismantle a marriage. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Jessica. Dinner's running long. Probably won't be home until 11. Sorry, baby. Make sure Jake finishes his homework. Baby. She called me baby while she was probably sitting across from Tyler Brennan, or maybe someone else I didn't even know about yet. While she was living off rental income I'd never seen, making plans with money she'd hidden, building an escape route she'd been constructing for years. I typed back, "No problem. See you when you get home." Then I called Patricia Brennan. She answered on the second ring, her voice crisp and professional. "Mr. Walsh, Ryan filled me in on the basics. I have time tomorrow morning at 9 if you can make it to my office. I'll be there. Bring everything. Bank statements, tax returns, credit card bills, investment accounts, anything financial you can access. And Mr. Walsh, don't worry about organization. Just bring it all. That's what I'm here for." After she gave me the address and hung up, I went to our home office and started pulling files. 14 years of financial records. 14 years of a marriage I'd thought was built on honesty and partnership and love. I found our joint tax returns going back 7 years. Jessica had always handled the filing, always told me what to sign. I'd trusted her because that's what you did when you were married. Trusted. That word again, already feeling like it belonged to someone else's life. The files filled 2 banker's boxes. I carried them to my car and locked them in the trunk, then came back inside and put the tax documents exactly where I'd found them on the kitchen table. Evidence. It was all evidence now. The house smelled like vanilla and cinnamon when I got home. Jessica had been baking again, her stress response, though she'd never admit what she was stressed about. Probably the logistics of maintaining 2 relationships and a secret financial life. I found her in the kitchen, pulling cookies from the oven. She looked up with that practiced smile. "Hey, you're home early. Wrapped up sooner than I thought?" I set my messenger bag on the counter, the weight of 14 years of financial records still pressing against my shoulder in memory. "Cookies?" Emma's been asking for snickerdoodles all week. She transferred them to a cooling rack with careful precision. The same hands that had typed those messages to Tyler. The same hands that had signed tax returns I'd never seen. "How was your day?" "Fine. Mostly routine stuff." I opened the refrigerator, staring at its contents without seeing them. "Hey, random question. I was talking to Mike at work about tax prep. You said your accountant handles yours separately, right? Who do you use?" I felt her pause behind me. Just a fraction of a second, but I'd been married to this woman for 14 years. I knew her rhythms. Just a small firm downtown. Bartlett and Associates." "Why?" "Bartlett and Associates." I committed it to memory. Mike was recommending someone, but I told him we were all set. Just couldn't remember the name. "Oh," she resumed arranging cookies. "Yeah, they're fine. Nothing fancy, but they get the job done." Nothing fancy. Just fancy enough to help her hide a rental property and God knows what else. "Cool." I grabbed a beer I didn't want and closed the fridge. "Kids still at practice?" "Emma's got another hour. Jake's at Connor's house. I'm picking him up at 6. She glanced at the clock. "Actually, I should probably start dinner soon." "I can handle it," I said. "You've been baking. I'll throw something together." Her face registered surprise. I didn't cook often, not because I couldn't, but because she'd always claimed to enjoy it. Another thing I'd accepted without question. "Really? You sure?" "Yeah, go relax. You look tired." She did look tired. Good. Let her wonder if I'd noticed something. Let that stress compound. "Okay, thanks." She wiped her hands on a towel. "I'll be upstairs if you need anything." I waited until I heard her footsteps on the stairs, then her office door close. Pulled out my phone and texted Ryan. Accountant is Bartlett and Associates downtown. Ring any bells? His response came fast. Looking them up now. I started dinner on autopilot. Pasta, sauce from a jar, the kind of meal that required no thought. My mind was already 3 steps ahead, mapping out the next moves. Patricia Brennan tomorrow morning. Then what? How long before I had enough to act? My phone buzzed. Bartlett is a 2-person operation. Been around about 15 years. Nothing shady on the surface, but small enough to be flexible. Patricia will know how to approach them. Thanks. How are you holding up? I stared at the question. How was I holding up? I was making pasta while my wife hid upstairs, probably texting her boyfriend about when they could next meet. I was sleeping beside someone I didn't know. I was cataloging evidence of my own life's demolition. Fine. Keeping it together. That's all you can do right now. Tomorrow, you start getting real answers. Tomorrow. Patricia Brennan's office at 9. I'd taken a personal day, told Jessica I had a dentist appointment. She'd barely looked up from her coffee when I mentioned it. I drained the pasta, stirred in the sauce, set the table for 4 even though it would be just the 2 of us for another hour. Normal. Everything normal. Jessica came down as I was plating the food. She'd changed into yoga pants and a sweatshirt, her home uniform. For a moment, I saw her as I used to. My wife, comfortable and familiar, moving through our kitchen like she belonged there. Then I remembered the rental property, the cash withdrawals, the burner phone I still hadn't confronted her about. Smells good, she said. It's just pasta. Still. She sat down, picked up her fork. So, dentist tomorrow? Yeah, just a cleaning. She twirled pasta around her fork. I have that conference next week, Tuesday through Thursday. Conference. Right. I'd forgotten about that, or rather, it hadn't seemed important before. Now, every trip, every absence took on new significance. Where is it again? Chicago. The Marriott downtown? She said it easily, no hesitation. Either it was true or she'd practiced the lie. Boring marketing stuff, but they're paying for it. You need a ride to the airport? I was going to just park there, easier than coordinating schedules. Easier than having me know exactly when she left and returned. Easier than accountability. Makes sense, I said. We ate in silence for a few minutes. The vanilla cinnamon smell from the cookies mixed with the tomato sauce, creating something cloying and wrong. I forced myself to keep eating. David? Her voice had shifted, softer. Is everything okay? I looked up. She was watching me with what appeared to be genuine concern. Maybe it was genuine. Maybe she could compartmentalize so completely that she actually worried about me while planning her exit. Yeah, why? I don't know. You seem distant lately. The audacity of it nearly made me laugh. Distant. The woman with a secret apartment and a boyfriend was worried that I seemed distant. Just work stuff, I said. Big project deadline coming up. My head's been in the code. She nodded, accepting this. Why wouldn't she? I'd been the predictable one for 14 years. The one who worked late, brought home a paycheck, asked no questions. Well, don't burn yourself out. She reached across the table, squeezed my hand. Her wedding ring caught the light. White gold, simple. The one I'd slipped on her finger in front of 200 people and a god I wasn't sure I believed in anymore. I squeezed back. I won't. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and I caught the micro expression. Anticipation, then careful neutrality. Emma, she said. Practice is running late. I should go get her. I can go. No, it's fine. You cooked. Finish eating. She was already standing, grabbing her keys. Be back in 20. The door closed behind her. I sat alone at the table with 2 plates of pasta and the ghost of vanilla in the air. Pulled out my phone and opened the tracking app I'd installed on my laptop, the one that mirrored her cloud backup. Watched the little dot that represented her phone move down our street, turn left toward the school. Then I opened my email and started a new draft. No recipient. Just a running document I'd been keeping, time-stamped and detailed. Everything I'd discovered, everything I'd done, everyone I'd talked to. If something happened to me, if somehow this all went sideways, there would be a record. March 12th, 7:15 p.m. Jessica mentioned Chicago conference March 19th, 21. Marriott downtown. Verify actual conference exists. Check credit card statements for hotel charges. Cross-reference with Tyler's schedule if possible. Accountant. Bartlett and Associates. Small firm, potentially complicit in asset concealment. Patricia Brennan, meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. Jessica's behavior, increasingly attentive. Possible guilt management or suspicion that I suspect something. Maintain normal routine. Give nothing away. I saved the draft and closed the email. Finished my pasta even though it tasted like cardboard. Loaded the dishwasher. Wiped down the counters. Put the cookies in a container. Every movement deliberate. Every action normal. The front door opened. Emma's voice filled the house, bright and uncomplicated. "Dad, we learned a new cheer today. Want to see?" "Sure, sweetheart." She launched into it in the living room, all energy and 12-year-old enthusiasm. Jessica watched from the doorway, smiling. We could have been any family on any Tuesday evening, except we weren't. I was counting down the hours until tomorrow morning. Until Patricia Brennan and her forensic accountant magic started pulling apart the financial lies. Until I knew exactly how much my wife had stolen and how long she'd been planning to leave. Emma finished her cheer with a flourish. "What do you think?" "That was great, Em. Really great." She beamed. Jessica's phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, and this time I saw it clearly. The small smile, quickly suppressed. "I need to make a quick call," she said. "Work stuff." She disappeared upstairs. Emma sprawled on the couch with her phone. I stood in the kitchen doorway, watching my daughter scroll through whatever 12-year-olds scrolled through, and thought about what Patricia might find tomorrow. More properties, offshore accounts, a safety deposit box full of cash, or maybe just the one apartment and the cash withdrawals. Maybe Jessica wasn't a criminal mastermind, just a woman who'd gotten good at lying and wanted an escape hatch. Either way, tomorrow I'd start getting answers. My phone buzzed. "Ryan." Patricia confirmed for 9 a.m. "Bring everything. She'll need at least 2 hours to review." "Will do." "And David, get some sleep tonight. You're going to need it." Sleep. Right. Like I'd slept more than 4 hours any night since I'd seen that first message notification. But I'd try. I'd lie down next to Jessica tonight, listen to her breathe, and pretend everything was fine. Because that's what I'd been doing for 8 months without knowing it. What was one more night? The Bartlett and Associates building sat in a strip mall between a dry cleaner and a tax preparation franchise. I'd driven past it 100 times without noticing. Now, parked across the street at 8:47 a.m., I studied the faded awning and hand-painted sign with new understanding. This was where Jessica had her taxes done, where she'd filed separately from me for 14 years, where someone had made the mistake that cracked everything open. Patricia Brennan's office was downtown, sleek glass and steel. I'd be there at 10. But first, I needed to see this place. Needed to understand the machinery of Jessica's deception. A woman in her 60s unlocked the front door at exactly 9 o'clock. Gray hair in a bun, cardigan despite the warming spring weather. She moved with the careful precision of someone who'd been doing the same thing for decades. I waited 15 minutes, then crossed the street. The interior smelled like old carpet and coffee, a waiting area with chairs from the 90s, a reception desk with a computer that belonged in a museum, financial planning posters on the walls, their edges curling. The woman looked up from her desk. "Can I help you?" "I hope so." I kept my voice pleasant, concerned. "My wife uses your services." "Jessica Walsh?" "There was an issue with some documents that got sent to our house by mistake." Her expression shifted immediately. Professional embarrassment. "Oh, Mr. Walsh, I'm so sorry about that. It was my error. I accidentally used the mailing address from her original client intake form instead of her current preference. It won't happen again." "I'm not here to complain," I said, which was true. "I'm just trying to understand the situation. We file separately, but I wasn't aware of some of the assets listed on those documents." She blinked. "I really can't discuss a client's tax information without their authorization." "Of course, I understand." I pulled out my phone, opened the photos of the tax documents. "I'm just concerned there might be other errors. This property on Maple Grove Avenue, for instance. The income reported seems inconsistent with what my wife mentioned to me." A careful lie. Jessica had never mentioned it at all. The woman, her nameplate read Dorothy Bartlett, adjusted her glasses. "Mr. Walsh, I really shouldn't—" "Is my name on any of these accounts?" I asked. "Any of the properties or assets you manage for her?" She hesitated. That was answer enough. "How long has she been your client, Mrs. Bartlett?" 16 years, she said quietly. "Since before you were married, I believe." 16 years. 2 years before we met. "And in all that time, she's always filed separately?" "Yes." "Even though filing jointly would have saved us thousands in taxes." Dorothy Bartlett's silence was heavy with things she couldn't say. I nodded slowly. "Thank you for your time." "Mr. Walsh?" She stopped me at the door. "I've been doing this for 40 years. I've seen a lot of situations. You might want to consult with your own tax professional. Just to review your options." The kindness in her voice nearly broke through my careful control. "I appreciate that." Patricia Brennan's office was everything Bartlett and Associates wasn't. 23rd floor, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river, furniture that cost more than my car. Her assistant offered me coffee in a real mug, not styrofoam. Patricia herself was in her early 50s, dark hair streaked with silver, wearing a suit that screamed competence. She shook my hand with the grip of someone who'd spent decades pulling financial skeletons from closets. "Ryan speaks highly of you," she said, gesturing to a chair. "He's filled me in on the broad strokes. Why don't you walk me through everything from the beginning?" I did. The discovery on the laptop, the messages, the tax documents, the cash withdrawals, the separate filing. Dorothy Bartlett's careful non-answers an hour ago. Patricia took notes on a legal pad, her pen moving in quick, efficient strokes. When I finished, she sat back. "Okay, first question. Do you have access to all your joint accounts?" "Yes. Checking, savings, investment accounts for the kids' college funds. I can log into everything." "Credit cards?" "Joint card we both use. I pay it from our checking account every month." "Does Jessica have any cards in just her name?" I paused. "I don't know." "Does she have mail delivered anywhere other than your home address?" "Not that I know of." Patricia made another note. "The property on Maple Grove. Do you know anything about it? When she bought it? What she paid? Whether there's a mortgage?" "Nothing. I didn't know it existed until those documents showed up." "And the rental income? Approximately $13,000 annually. You've never seen that money in your joint accounts?" "Never." "So she has at least one bank account you don't know about." Patricia tapped her pen against the pad. "The cash withdrawals you mentioned. $300 monthly for at least 2 years. That's $7,200 minimum. Where does that money go? I assumed household expenses, cash for groceries, gas, things like that. $7,000 over 2 years for incidentals? Her eyebrow arched. That seems excessive for a household with primarily electronic payments. It did, now that she said it. What about her paycheck? Patricia asked. Direct deposit to your joint account? Yes, has been for years. Full amount? I opened my mouth, then closed it. I assume so. You've never verified the deposit amount against her pay stubs? No, I trusted. I caught myself. No. Patricia's expression softened slightly. David, I need you to understand something. What you're describing isn't just financial infidelity. It's a pattern of systematic concealment that predates your marriage and has continued throughout it. The separate tax filing, the hidden property, the unaccounted cash, the private accountant who's been managing this for 16 years. This is sophisticated financial compartmentalization. My hands were steady on the armrests. What does that mean practically? It means Jessica has been maintaining a completely separate financial life parallel to your marriage. And here's what concerns me most. People don't do this accidentally. They do it with intention and planning. She pulled out a form and slid it across the desk. This authorizes me to run a comprehensive asset search. I'll check property records in every county in the state, corporate filings, business registrations, vehicles, boats, anything registered in her name or her maiden name. I'll also run a credit report. That'll show us any credit cards or loans you don't know about. I signed without hesitation. How long will this take? Preliminary results by end of business today. Full report within a week. She paused. David, I need to ask, are you prepared for what we might find? More properties? Possibly. Also business interests, investment accounts, offshore holdings if she's sophisticated enough. I've seen cases where a spouse has accumulated hundreds of thousands in hidden assets over the course of a marriage. The number hit like a physical blow. Hundreds of thousands. From what? I asked. Her salary isn't that high. Rental income, carefully managed over time, side businesses, gifts or inheritance you weren't told about, strategic investment of funds siphoned from joint accounts. Patricia leaned forward. You said she handles paying the bills from your joint account? Yes. Do you review the statements, verify the amounts? The answer sat heavy in my throat. No. Then you don't actually know what's being paid from that account versus what might be redirected elsewhere. Jesus. There's something else, Patricia said. The timing of that accounting error, documents sent to your home address instead of wherever she usually has them sent. That's not just a mistake. That's a deviation from a long-established pattern. Dorothy Bartlett has been doing this for 40 years. She doesn't accidentally mix up mailing addresses. What are you saying? I'm saying mistakes like that sometimes happen when someone's conscience catches up with them. Or when they're trying to send a message they can't send directly. I thought of Dorothy Bartlett's kind eyes, her suggestion that I consult my own tax professional. She was trying to help me. Maybe. Or maybe she's seen enough to know what's coming and doesn't want to be complicit anymore. Patricia closed her folder. Either way, you have information now. What you do with it is up to you. What would you do? She smiled, but there was no humor in it. I'd keep my mouth shut, let my forensic accountant do her job, and document everything. Because if Jessica has been this careful for this long, she's either planning an exit strategy or she's already living a double life so complete that your marriage is just one component of it. The words hung in the air between us. I'll call you tonight with preliminary findings, Patricia said. In the meantime, act normal. Don't confront her, don't change your patterns, don't give her any reason to think you know more than you did 3 days ago. I stood. My legs felt distant, like they belonged to someone else. David? She walked me to the door. One more thing. When this comes apart, and it will, she's going to be shocked that you found out. People who compartmentalize this successfully, they genuinely believe they're in control. They think they're too careful to get caught. Good, I said. The word came out colder than I intended. Patricia just nodded. Ryan said you were handling this well. He was right. I took the elevator down 23 floors, walked through the gleaming lobby, and made it to my car before my hands started shaking. Hundreds of thousands. A parallel financial life. 16 years of planning. My phone buzzed. Jessica. Don't forget Emma has soccer at 6. Can you pick up Jake from chess club? I stared at the message. The mundane domesticity of it. The performance of normal family life. Got it, I typed back. See you tonight. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Love you. I put the phone in the cup holder without responding and drove home to wait. The email from Patricia arrived at 11:47 p.m. on Thursday. I was lying in bed next to Jessica, listening to her breathe in the darkness, wondering how many nights I'd done exactly this while she'd been planning whatever this was. My phone buzzed. I angled it away from her. Brightness turned down. Preliminary findings attached. Call me tomorrow. PB. I waited until her breathing settled into the deeper rhythm of sleep, then slipped into the bathroom. Locked the door. Sat on the edge of the tub and opened the attachment. The first page made my stomach drop. Preliminary asset. Search. Confidential. Subject. Jessica Marie Walsh, née Porter. Properties. Identified. 2847 Maple Grove Avenue, Unit 4B, confirmed. 156 Lakewood Terrace, Apartment 2, purchased 2019, $185,000. Commercial property, 4400 Industrial Park Road, Unit 7, purchased 2021, $240,000. 3 properties. Not 1. 3. I scrolled down, my hands starting to shake. Bank accounts. Located. First National Bank. Account Amirs 4472, confirmed rental income deposits. Harbor Trust Bank, account Amirs 834, opened 2008, current balance approximately $47,000. Coastal Credit Union, account Amirs 990, opened 2015, current balance approximately $23,000. Investment accounts. Vanguard Brokerage account, opened 2012, estimated value $78,000. Fidelity 401k, rollover IRA, estimated value $34,000. I had to read it twice, then 3 times. The numbers swam in front of me. I did the math in my head, then again on my phone's calculator because I couldn't believe it. Over $400,000. Minimum. $400,000 I didn't know existed. I kept scrolling. Additional findings. Business entity, Porter Property Management, LLC, registered 2018. Jessica M. Porter, listed as sole proprietor and registered agent. No tax returns filed, jointly disclose this entity. She had a company, an actual business I'd never heard of. Note: subject has maintained separate filing status for entire duration of marriage despite potential tax advantages of joint filing. This is highly unusual and suggests deliberate compartmentalization of financial information. Cash withdrawal pattern analysis. 300-month withdrawals consistent with rental property maintenance costs, or systematic cash accumulation. Recommend investigation into safety deposit boxes. Safety deposit boxes. Jesus Christ. The accountant, Dorothy Bartlett, has served as registered agent for Porter Property Management LLC since its inception. The accidental document transmission appears increasingly suspicious given the sophisticated financial structure in place. I sat there on the bathroom floor, the cold tiles seeping through my pajama pants, staring at the phone. 14 years. 14 years of, honey, we should probably save more, and the kids' college funds are tight, and maybe we should wait on the kitchen renovation. 14 years of me working 60-hour weeks, taking on extra projects, traveling for work to bring in more money for our family. our family. While she'd been building a financial empire I didn't know existed, the bathroom door felt too thin. I could hear her shifting in bed, the mattress springs creaking. I flushed the toilet for cover, ran the sink, went through the motions of washing my hands while my brain tried to process what I just read. $400,000, 3 properties, a business. I looked at myself in the mirror. Same face, same tired eyes, but everything underneath had changed. When I slid back into bed, she rolled toward me, still mostly asleep. Her arm draped across my chest in a gesture that had once felt like love and now felt like a lie made physical. I lay there until dawn, doing calculations in my head. Friday morning, I called Patricia from my car during my coffee run. "You read it," she said. Not a question. All of it. I'm still digging. This is just what I found in 2 days. David, this level of financial compartmentalization doesn't happen by accident. She's been building this structure for years. Maybe since before you were married. I watched a woman walk past with a stroller, normal Friday morning in the suburbs. The accountant. Dorothy Bartlett. I looked into her. She specializes in what she calls financial privacy consulting. That's code for helping people hide assets from spouses, business partners, creditors. She's very good at it. So the tax documents were either a genuine mistake, which seems unlikely given her track record, or someone's conscience finally kicked in. Either way, you got lucky. Lucky. Right? The properties, I said. Can she claim they're separate property? Premarital assets? The first one, Maple Grove, yes. That was purchased before your marriage. But the other two? Purchased during the marriage with undisclosed income. That's commingling. And the business entity, the investment accounts built during your marriage. Those are marital assets she's been hiding. The fact that she filed separately doesn't protect her. She had a legal obligation to disclose. What about the cash? That's trickier. If she's been stockpiling it somewhere, we need to find where. I'm checking safe deposit box registrations now, but she could have something under her maiden name or in another state entirely. The pattern suggests she's been preparing for something. An exit strategy. That would be my professional assessment, yes. I watched steam rise from my coffee cup. What's the next step? I need access to her computer, her phone if possible. The documents you've already provided are good, but I need to trace the money flows. When did she buy the properties? Where did the down payments come from? Is she moving money between accounts? The more I can document the intentional concealment, the worse it looks for her in court. Her laptop. She leaves it at home sometimes. Can you get me remote access? I can walk you through installing monitoring software. It's legal. You're married. It's community property. And we're documenting financial fraud. I thought about the laptop on the kitchen counter, the same one where I'd first seen Tyler's message, the same one that had started all of this. Yeah, I said. I can do that. Good. One more thing, David. The affair. My jaw tightened. What about it? In most states, it doesn't matter much for property division. But combined with financial fraud, hidden assets, secret businesses, systematic deception, that paints a picture. It shows pattern and intent. It shows she's been planning this, preparing to leave you with nothing while she walks away with everything she's hidden. She's not walking away with anything. Patricia was quiet for a moment. No, she said finally. She's not. But we need to be thorough. Document everything. Don't tip your hand yet. The more she thinks she's getting away with it, the more careless she'll be. The Chicago trip is next week. Let her go. While she's gone, that's when we move. I'll need you to document everything in the house. Every paper, every file, every drawer. Can you do that? I thought about 3 days alone in the house. 3 days without her watching. 3 days to search every corner of the life we'd built together. The life I'd built. She'd just been hiding things in it. I can do that. That night, Jessica was in a good mood, almost cheerful. She hummed while making dinner, kissed my cheek when I came into the kitchen, asked about my day with what sounded like genuine interest. I watched her move around our kitchen, efficient and familiar, and tried to reconcile this woman with the numbers in Patricia's report. $400,000. So Chicago's all set, she said, stirring pasta sauce. Flight leaves Monday at 6 a.m. I'll be back Wednesday evening. Big conference? Should be good. Keynote speaker is supposed to be amazing. New marketing strategies, digital integration, all that stuff. She smiled at me. Boring for you, I'm sure. You'll do great. She squeezed my hand. Her wedding ring caught the light, 14 years of wear making the gold soft and thin. I wondered if she'd take it off in Chicago, if Tyler would be there, in whatever hotel room she'd booked. If they'd laugh about me, the clueless husband funding her secret empire with my 60-hour weeks. David, you okay? I realized I'd been staring. Yeah, just tired. Long week. You work too hard. She kissed my forehead, and I let her, even though my skin crawled. We should plan a vacation, just us. The kids could stay with your mom. That'd be nice. We wouldn't be taking a vacation. In 3 weeks, maybe 4, she'd be served with divorce papers. Papers that listed every property, every account, every dollar she'd hidden. Papers that laid out 14 years of systematic fraud. But tonight, I smiled at her. Ate the dinner she made, helped with dishes, watched TV on the couch with her head on my shoulder, played the role she thought I'd always play, the clueless husband, the reliable provider, the man who'd never question, never look deeper, never find out. She had no idea that role had ended the moment I'd seen Tyler's message. She had no idea about anything at all. The house phone rang at 7:30 that evening, just as I was loading the dishwasher. I'll get it, Jessica called from the living room, where she'd been scrolling through her phone with that little smile she got when Tyler was texting her. I heard her voice shift into professional mode. Oh, hi, Dorothy. No, it's fine. What's up? I kept rinsing plates, but every nerve in my body went on alert. Wait, what? Jessica's voice had gone sharp. What do you mean you sent them to the house? I turned off the water, listening. No, I understand mistakes happen, but... A pause. Yes, David might have seen them. I don't know yet. Another pause, longer this time. Okay, we'll talk tomorrow. Thanks for letting me know. She appeared in the kitchen doorway 30 seconds later, her face carefully neutral. That was Dorothy. Your accountant? Yeah. She leaned against the door frame, studying me. She accidentally sent my tax documents here instead of to my office. Did you happen to see an envelope from Bartlett and Associates? This was it. The moment where I chose which direction this went. I could have played dumb. Could have said no, bought myself more time before she knew I knew about the properties. But something in her expression, that calculating look, like she was already 3 moves ahead, made me change course. The big manila envelope? I dried my hands on the dish towel. Yeah, I saw it. Didn't open it, though. It had your name on it. Her shoulders relaxed fractionally. Where is it? Kitchen table, I think. Or maybe the counter by the coffee maker. She moved past me, found the envelope where I'd left it that morning, unopened as promised. She didn't open it now either, just held it against her chest. Thanks. She hesitated. Dorothy said there might be some confusion about the filing. She wanted to make sure you didn't think... Think what? Just that everything's legitimate. I've always filed separately because of my consulting income. It's cleaner for tax purposes. Consulting income? Property management consulting. She said it smoothly, like she'd rehearsed this conversation 100 times. I've been helping people with rental property issues since before we got married. Nothing major, just some side work. Huh. I turned back to the dishwasher. I didn't know that. It's boring stuff. Tenant disputes, maintenance scheduling. You never asked. The casual way she said it, like I was somehow at fault for not knowing about her secret business empire, sent a spike of rage through my chest. I focused on arranging plates in the lower rack. Makes sense, I said. So the tax thing is all sorted out? Yeah. Dorothy just wanted to give me a heads up about the mailing error. She was still standing there, watching me. You really didn't open it? I looked at her directly. You want me to open your mail now? No, of course not. She shook her head. Never mind. Sorry. It's been a long day. She left the kitchen with the envelope. I heard her footsteps on the stairs, then the sound of her office door closing. I finished loading the dishwasher, my hands steady despite the adrenaline flooding my system. She'd just lied to my face for the 100th time, maybe the 1,000th. Property management consulting, some side work. Nothing major. $400,000 in hidden assets. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Patricia. Call me when you can talk privately. I waited until Jessica came back downstairs, until she'd settled on the couch with her laptop, until the familiar rhythm of her typing filled the living room. Then I grabbed my jacket. Going to take out the trash, I said. She didn't even look up. Okay. Outside, I walked to the end of the driveway before calling Patricia back. The November air was cold enough to see my breath. She answered on the first ring. Did something happen? Her accountant called. Warned her about the mailing error. Interesting. I heard papers rustling. What did your wife say? That she does property management consulting. Side work, nothing major. She made it sound like I should have known about it all along. Classic deflection. More rustling. Did she seem panicked? No, calculated. Like she'd been ready for this conversation. She probably has been. David, I found something else today. Do you know if your wife has any family overseas? The question caught me off guard. Her parents are in Florida. Her brother's in Seattle. Why? Because Porter Property Management LLC has been making quarterly wire transfers to a bank in the Cayman Islands. Small amounts, $2,000 here, $3,000 there, but consistent, going back 6 years. I leaned against the garage door, processing. How much total? Roughly $60,000. Jesus Christ! It gets better. The receiving account is held by something called Meridian Holdings Trust. I can't crack it from here. These offshore trusts are designed to be opaque. But the pattern suggests she's been moving money out of the country systematically. For what? That's the question. Could be legitimate tax planning. Could be she's setting up an exit strategy. Could be she's hiding assets from someone. Maybe a previous relationship, maybe you, maybe both. I watched Jessica's silhouette through the living room window, backlit by the lamp, typing away on her laptop. Probably texting Tyler about which hotel they'd use in Chicago. The Chicago trip, I said. Can you find out if Tyler Brennan has travel booked for the same dates? I can try. What are you thinking? I'm thinking if they're both going to be gone, that's my window. But I need to know for sure she won't come back early. I'll see what I can do. Patricia paused. David, we need to talk about next steps. You're going to need a lawyer soon, not just for advice, for action. I know. Do you? Because right now you're sitting on evidence of massive financial fraud within a marriage. The longer you wait to act, the more time she has to move assets around. If she gets spooked, she won't. You don't know that. The accountant calling tonight, that was a warning shot. Dorothy Bartlett has been filing your wife's taxes for 16 years. She knows exactly what's in those returns. The fact that she accidentally sent them to your house, then immediately called to warn Jessica, that's not an accident. That's Dorothy sending a message. I hadn't thought of it that way. You think she wants Jessica to know I might find out? I think Dorothy might be having a crisis of conscience, or she's covering her own liability. Either way, your wife is now aware that you could have seen those documents. She's going to be more careful. So what do you suggest? Get a lawyer. Tomorrow. Someone who specializes in high-asset divorce with hidden income. You need to file before she does, and you need to do it with a motion to freeze all assets pending discovery. If I file, she'll know everything. She's going to know eventually. The question is whether you want to control the timing or let her control it. Through the window, Jessica closed her laptop and stretched. She looked relaxed, content, living her double life without a care in the world while I stood in the cold, planning the end of everything we'd built. Everything I'd built. She'd just been playing house. Give me until after Chicago, I said. 1 week. Let me search the house, find whatever else she's hiding. Then I'll file. Patricia was quiet for a long moment. 1 week. But David, if anything changes, if she seems suspicious, if money starts moving, if anything feels off, you call me immediately and we accelerate the timeline. Understood? Understood. And get a lawyer. Even if you're not ready to file, you need someone who can move fast when the time comes. After we hung up, I stood in the driveway for another 5 minutes, letting the cold seep through my jacket. My breath made small clouds in the darkness. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked. Normal suburban sounds on a normal Tuesday night. Except nothing was normal anymore. Maybe it never had been. When I went back inside, Jessica looked up from her phone and smiled. Everything okay? Fine, just needed some air. You've been stressed lately. She patted the couch cushion next to her. Come sit. We could watch something. I sat down, maintaining the careful distance we'd somehow developed over the past 8 months. On screen, some home renovation show played out its predictable drama. The couple disagreed about tile choices. The contractor found unexpected problems. Everything worked out in the end. Jessica leaned her head on my shoulder. I felt nothing. Patricia's final report arrived on Sunday, 2 days before Jessica's Chicago trip. I read it in my car, parked at a coffee shop 3 miles from home. Comprehensive Asset Analysis. Final report. The total was worse than I'd imagined. $647,000 in hidden assets. Not $400,000. $647,000. She'd been more careful than we'd thought. More patient. More calculating. And I had every single transaction documented. Monday morning, I kissed Jessica goodbye at 5:30 a.m. She wheeled her suitcase to the Uber, turned back to wave, her smile bright in the pre-dawn darkness. Love you, she called. I raised my hand. Said nothing. The taillights disappeared around the corner. I waited exactly 10 minutes, then called Ryan. It's time, I said. By noon, I had a lawyer. Catherine Preston, 58, with a reputation for scorched earth divorce litigation and a client list that included 3 state senators and a federal judge. Her retainer was $20,000. I paid it from an account Jessica didn't know I'd opened 3 weeks ago. This is excellent documentation, Catherine said, flipping through Patricia's report. Your wife has been systematically defrauding you for the entire duration of your marriage. We can prove intent, we can prove concealment, and we can prove she's been preparing to leave you with nothing. What happens next? She smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. Next, we destroy her. The divorce papers were filed Wednesday morning at 9 a.m., exactly when Jessica's flight was scheduled to land back home. Along with the petition, Catherine filed an emergency motion to freeze all assets, every account, every property, every dollar Jessica had hidden. By 10 a.m., every bank had been notified. Every property had a lien filed against it. Porter Property Management LLC's accounts were frozen pending forensic audit. By 11 a.m., Jessica's phone started ringing. I didn't answer mine. She came through the door at 2 p.m., her face a mask of fury I'd never seen before. "What the hell did you do?" I was sitting at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten breakfast as a family 1,000 times. In front of me were printed copies of everything: the bank statements, the property records, the offshore wire transfers, the messages with Tyler, all of it. "I found out who you really are," I said calmly. Her face went white. "David, I can explain." $647,000. My voice was steady. "That's what you've been hiding for 14 years. It's not what you think. 3 properties, a business I never knew about, offshore accounts, systematic cash withdrawals totaling over $17,000, and Tyler Brennan, who you've been sleeping with for 8 months while I paid for everything." She grabbed the back of a chair, her knuckles white. "You had no right to spy on me." "I had every right. We're married. Those are marital assets you've been hiding. That's fraud, Jessica. Criminal fraud. Your lawyer will tell you that you're screwed." I stood up, and she actually took a step back. "Catherine Preston is filing a motion for full discovery of all your finances. Every account, every transaction, every wire transfer to the Cayman Islands. And when the court sees what you've done, when they see the systematic concealment, the offshore transfers, the business you never disclosed, the affair you've been having while spending marital funds on hotel rooms," I let the sentence hang. "You're going to lose everything." The legal process took 8 months. 8 months of depositions and forensic accounting and court hearings. 8 months of Jessica's lawyers trying to claim the properties were separate assets, that the offshore accounts were legitimate tax planning, that she'd always intended to disclose everything. Catherine Preston tore every argument apart. The judge's ruling came down on a Tuesday morning in July. I sat in the courtroom with Ryan on one side and Catherine on the other, while Jessica sat across the aisle with her third lawyer. The first two had quit when they'd realized how bad her case was. Judge Williamson was a woman in her 60s who'd been on the bench for 20 years. She didn't mince words. "In 30 years of practicing and presiding over family law, I have rarely seen such systematic and deliberate financial deception within a marriage. Mrs. Walsh maintained a parallel financial life for the entire duration of this marriage, concealing assets, diverting income, and making transfers to offshore accounts while representing to her husband that their family finances were limited." Jessica sat perfectly still. The evidence shows clear intent to defraud. The separate business entity, the undisclosed properties, the offshore accounts, these were not oversights. These were calculated decisions to hide marital assets in preparation for an eventual departure from the marriage. Judge Williamson looked directly at Jessica. "You will not profit from your own fraud." The ruling was comprehensive. Every hidden asset was deemed marital property subject to division. But because of the fraud, because of the systematic concealment, the division wasn't equal. Jessica received 15%. I received 85%. The remaining amount went to taxes and fees. Of the $647,000 she'd hidden, I walked away with $550,000. She got $97,000. The house was mine. The kids' college funds were mine. The retirement accounts were mine. And because of the affair, because of the fraud, because of the documented deception, I got primary custody of Emma and Jake. Jessica got every other weekend and Wednesday dinners. She'd gambled everything on never being caught. She'd lost. 1 year later, I stood in the kitchen of the same house, watching Emma practice her cheerleading routine in the backyard. Jake was at the table doing homework, occasionally asking me questions about fractions. The house felt different now. Lighter, somehow. Like a weight I hadn't known I was carrying had finally lifted. Jessica had moved to an apartment across town. Not one of her hidden properties, Those had all been sold to pay legal fees and settlement costs. She saw the kids according to the custody schedule, always on time, always appropriate. We were civil at exchanges. Nothing more. Tyler Brennan had disappeared from her life the moment the divorce papers were filed. Apparently, his interest in her had been contingent on her money and availability. When both evaporated, so did he. Dorothy Bartlett had retired suddenly, closing her practice 2 months after everything came out. I never knew for certain if she'd sent those tax documents on purpose, but I like to think she had. That somewhere in her 40 years of helping people hide assets, she'd developed a conscience. I'd used some of the settlement money to fund the kids' college accounts properly. The rest went into investments, managed by a financial advisor who'd helped me understand exactly how much Jessica had stolen over the years. Not just the hidden assets, the opportunity cost, the investments we could have made, the retirement planning we could have done, the life we could have built if she hadn't been siphoning money into her secret empire. The numbers were staggering, but I didn't dwell on them. Ryan came over for dinner that night, like he did most Wednesdays. We grilled burgers while the kids played in the yard, and he asked the question he always asked. "You doing okay?" "Yeah," I said, and meant it. "No regrets about how it went down?" I thought about that. About the 8 months of investigation before I'd filed. About the cold calculation that had replaced the hurt. About sitting across from Jessica in courtroom after courtroom, watching her realize she'd lost everything. "No regrets," he nodded, flipping a burger. "Catherine said it was one of the most clear-cut cases she's ever handled. Usually there's some ambiguity, some gray area, but this was black and white." "Yeah?" We ate dinner together, all of us, me, Ryan, Emma, Jake. Normal conversation about school and sports and summer plans. The kids were doing well, better than I'd feared. Therapy had helped, time had helped, and the simple truth that their daily life hadn't changed much, same house, same school, same friends, had helped most of all. After Ryan left and the kids were in bed, I sat on the back porch with a beer and looked at the stars. People talk about trust like it's a light switch, on or off, there or gone. But it's not. Trust is a foundation, built slowly over years, that everything else rests on. When that foundation cracks, when you discover it was never solid to begin with, everything built on top of it collapses. Jessica had spent 14 years building a lie. A beautiful, elaborate, carefully maintained lie that looked like a marriage but was really just a cover story for the life she was living in the shadows. She'd thought she was smart enough to maintain both forever. She'd been wrong. The thing about deception is that it requires perfect execution. One mistake, one crack in the facade, and everything unravels. Dorothy Bartlett's error had been that crack. Everything else had followed with mathematical inevitability. I didn't hate Jessica anymore. Hate required too much energy, too much emotional investment. I felt nothing for her now except a distant sort of pity. She'd traded a real marriage, a real family, real love. For what? Money she was too paranoid to spend? A fantasy life she could only live in stolen moments. An affair with a man who'd abandoned her the moment she became inconvenient? She'd gambled everything and lost. I'd trusted completely and won. Not because I was smarter or better, but because when the truth came out, I'd been standing on solid ground and she'd been standing on sand. Emma came outside, wrapped in a blanket. "Can't sleep?" "Just thinking, sweetheart. You okay?" She sat down next to me. 12 years old, almost 13, growing up too fast. "Are you happy, Dad?" The question caught me off guard. "Yeah, I am. Are you?" "I think so." She pulled the blanket tighter. "I'm glad we're still here, in our house." "Me too. Mom seems sad when we visit her." I chose my words carefully. "Your mom made some choices that didn't work out the way she wanted. But that's not your fault, or Jake's fault. That's on her. Emma nodded slowly. She told me she was sorry. For everything. That's good. I hope she means it. Do you forgive her? I looked at my daughter, this person I'd helped create, who was trying to navigate an adult situation with a child's understanding of the world. Forgiveness is complicated, I said finally, but I'm not angry anymore, and I want you and Jake to have a relationship with your mom. She messed up with me, but she's still your mother. That's very mature of you, I laughed. When did you get so grown up? I've always been the mature one in this family. She grinned, and for a moment she looked exactly like her mother had at that age. Before the lies, before the deception, before everything went wrong. Go to bed, kiddo. School tomorrow. She kissed my cheek and went inside. I sat there a while longer, finishing my beer, thinking about forgiveness and trust and the strange mathematics of marriage. Jessica had hidden $647,000 because she didn't trust me with the truth of who she was. She'd built an empire in the shadows because she believed she needed an escape route, a safety net, a life separate from ours. She'd been so busy protecting herself from some imagined future betrayal that she'd never stopped to consider she was the one doing the betraying. The irony was almost poetic. I'd trusted her completely, and that trust had been my greatest vulnerability. But when the truth came out, that same trust had been my greatest weapon, because I'd built my life on honesty, on transparency, on the belief that marriage meant partnership. And she'd built hers on lies. When the judge had weighed those two foundations, there'd been no contest. 2 years after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Dorothy Bartlett at a coffee shop downtown. She was older, grayer, but I recognized her immediately. She saw me too. For a moment I thought she might leave. Instead, she walked over. Mr. Walsh. Mrs. Bartlett. We stood there awkwardly for a moment. Then she said, very quietly, I'm glad you got the documents. Did you send them on purpose? She looked at me with tired eyes. I've helped a lot of people hide assets over the years. Told myself it was just tax planning, just financial privacy. But your wife, she shook her head. She was different. The way she talked about you, about your children, like you were all just obstacles to manage. It didn't sit right. So you sent them to my house. I sent them to the address on file. If that happened to be your home address instead of her office, well, mistakes happen. I smiled. Thank you. Don't thank me. I was complicit in her fraud for 16 years. I'm not proud of that. She started to walk away, then turned back. But I'm glad you won. Some people deserve to lose everything. 3 years after the divorce, Emma started high school and Jake entered middle school. They were good kids, well-adjusted despite everything. They saw their mother regularly, maintained a relationship that seemed healthy enough. Jessica had moved on too. New apartment, new job, new boyfriend. She'd learned to live within her means, which turned out to be considerably more modest than the empire she'd built in secret. I'd started dating again. Nothing serious yet, but I was open to it. Learning to trust again, slowly, carefully. Because that's the real lesson, isn't it? Not that trust is foolish or that everyone lies or that marriage is a trap, but that trust must be earned and maintained. That transparency isn't weakness. It's the foundation of everything real. Jessica had thought she was protecting herself by hiding everything. In reality, she'd been building a prison of her own lies, one secret at a time, until the walls were so high she couldn't see out anymore. I'd thought I was being naive by trusting completely. In reality, I'd been building something real, something that could withstand scrutiny, something that existed in the light. When the reckoning came, only one of those structures survived. 5 years after the divorce, Jake asked me a question while we were shooting hoops in the driveway. Dad, do you think you'll ever get married again? I considered it. Maybe, if I meet the right person. How will you know they're the right person? I caught the ball, held it. I think I'll know because everything will be out in the open. No secrets, no hidden accounts, no separate lives. Just two people building something together, honestly. He nodded, processing this. Mom wasn't honest. No, she wasn't. But you were. I tried to be. And you won. I looked at my son, 15 now, almost a man. Yeah, I won. Good, he said, and stole the ball from my hands, driving in for a layup. I let him have it. The truth is, I did win. Not just financially, though the settlement had secured our future. Not just in custody, though having the kids primarily with me was everything. I won because I'd lived honestly, and when everything fell apart, I had nothing to hide. No secret accounts to explain, no parallel life to defend, no web of lies to untangle. I won because Jessica had underestimated the power of truth. She'd thought she was so clever, so careful, so sophisticated in her deception. She'd built an empire in the shadows and believed she could maintain it forever. But shadows only exist where there's light to cast them. And when the light finally reached into every corner of her secret life, the shadows disappeared. All that remained was the truth. And the truth was simple. She'd lied, she'd cheated, she'd stolen, and she'd lost everything because of it. Meanwhile, I'd trusted, I'd been honest, I'd built my life in the open. And when the judge weighed those two approaches, there was never any question who would prevail. Some might say I was lucky. That if Dorothy Bartlett hadn't sent those documents, I'd never have known. That I could have spent the rest of my life being deceived. Maybe that's true. But I prefer to think that the truth has a way of coming out eventually. That lies, no matter how carefully constructed, eventually collapse under their own weight. That deception always has a shelf life. Jessica's shelf life was 14 years. Mine is forever. Because I have nothing to hide. The screenshot that changed everything is gone now, deleted along with all the evidence once the legal proceedings concluded. I don't need it anymore. Don't need the reminder of what she did or who she really was. I have my kids, my home, my life, built on honesty, maintained through transparency, secured by truth. Jessica has her apartment, her modest income, her weekend visits with the children who know exactly what she did and why their family fell apart. We each have what we built. And in the end, that's the only justice that matters. The moral is simple, though painful. You can't build a real life on fake foundations. You can't maintain love through deception. You can't hide who you really are forever. Eventually, the truth comes out. And when it does, you'd better be standing on solid ground. I was. She wasn't. That made all the difference.